everyone, and welcome to the Real Influencers Project. I'm your host, Craig Reynolds, and with me today is special guest, Fabi Preslar. How are you doing today?
I am doing great. How are you doing, Craig?
You know, I'm hanging in there the best that I can, which I can't ask for much more than that.
Yeah,
so
and great is the new COVID great. So it's just like we need a new definition for it. So I'm doing the best I can every moment with all the waves that come our way and all the craziness. So
absolutely.
It's just great. We're just going to go with that.
Yes, yeah, exactly. But you work in an industry that people have said for years is dead. You know, I'm one that still likes to have a book in my hand. I like to have a magazine. I still like to go to Barnes and Noble. I'm not the Kindle person. I like to have things to read, I guess, or to study. Use my references. We've got books everywhere in my house. So for me, that's very important. And what you're doing, you're still keeping that, I guess, part of information distribution alive. But before we get to that, where did you grow up?
Oh, first of all, let's not talk about what my industry is as being dead. So
no, but it's not. I hear it and I'm like, there's no
thriving.
way.
It's thriving. Yes. Because of having very targeted information and very, our subjects are very niche. And so we have a targeted audience. So we're not going mass media. Mass media, that has gotten so diluted that some people can choose to say that parts of it are dead. The massness of it is dead. But anyway, so we're very niche. But speaking of very niche, I came into this world with two amazing parents that were both met in France and both French. And they were a little bit of rebels, so they decided that it was time to leave France and go start their own life. So they moved to Canada, which is where I was born, in Montreal, Canada. And from there were some great opportunities. My dad's a chef, and my mom they're both very creative, very talented people. And so we moved to the Bahamas, and we lived there for a little while. And then my mom and I moved to Paris for probably about 9-10 months. And then came back to the Bahamas, and then we moved up towards, different places in Florida. That's where we came into the States. Now, my parents didn't speak English. And so, French was my first language, English second. I'm an accent sponge, so I have to be careful about the the people I hang out with and what accent I'm going to end up having. Right now, it's very Southern, and that's very okay with me. We lived on a self-sufficient farm in Pillion, South Carolina. So we grew all our own vegetables and had eggs and milk and all you can think of to stay healthy and to keep our family going. Now, as creative and as amazing as my parents are and were at the time as well, that doesn't always translate into an awesome business model. But these great craftsmen opened up a restaurant in Columbia, South Carolina, without business background, which unfortunately meant that was a very, very challenging and hard year for the entire family. And ultimately it led in my father and mother closing the restaurant because we had to. And so we lost the restaurant, and then we lost our home and the farm, and ended up having a beautiful family living near Winston-Salem, open up their home to us. So
wonderful.
So my mom, my dad, and my sister and I moved into a home with another family to kind of get back on our feet. And, that all happened the summer before my senior year in high school.
Wow.
So that was a little bit rocking and changing for a teenager, thinking they knew what they were going to be doing. But nonetheless, graduated from high school, and then within probably about 2 weeks, left home. So 17 years old, I left home, moved to Charlotte by myself. I had no money, knew no one, did not have a car. But it was just a place for me to just start my own life. And I loved stories, always did. But I was living my biggest story and trying to figure out what I was going to do and who I was going to be growing up. But that's why I came to Charlotte, is to go to Central Piedmont and become a graphic designer and learn how to visually tell those stories. And you know what? That was a long time ago. And I have moved it and transformed it in so many different ways. And now that's what I do for a living. And we just celebrated my company, Spark Publications, 22nd anniversary this month.
That is incredible. I mean, just the start of that, it sounds like what you did was exactly what your parents did. You know, it's time to fly the coop and go do our own thing. Yeah, and you didn't even know that part. You were just like, it's time for me to go. I got to go.
Yep. Time to start that new life and figure out who you are and how you can, serve best in this world and just live that life.
What you saw your parents open and close, and the restaurant industry, from what I understand, is already incredibly challenging.
Yes.
What was that influence like for you when you decided to open your own business and do your own thing? How did that affect that process?
Well, the first business I had it for 6 years. And, when you go through that kind of thing, which is kind of traumatic, I pushed it down so deep that I never thought of it, how it would affect me, and definitely not affect me as a business owner. Each time I started my business, it was for reasons that could package my talent and work with my lifestyle at the time. So my first business, I started it a couple weeks after having my daughter, giving birth to my daughter.
Very cool.
I had as a freelance business, and that lasted for 6 years with a very hard ending, realizing that you have to learn things about the law and contracts and who you're working with, and just a really good, strong business foundation. So several years later, when I started Spark Publications, I started it with a little bit more business knowledge, and again, started it and moved it home-based in order to be home with my daughter and my husband, who everybody on the planet had been spending time with besides me. So,
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I like what you said about starting your business, though it would work well with your lifestyle as opposed to morphing everything around your life around your job, which I think people get lost in doing on a day-to-day basis. Do what you love and the money will follow. That's what I've always said.
Yes. And then shortly thereafter, the money, it was a rough couple months. I'm not going to kid you. Starting a business, cold turkey, not advisable. But it's it's what I needed to do. And there was some sacrifice in there. And honestly, for part of the story, within weeks of starting my business home-based, I got a call from the woman that became my mentor, that actually opened up her home to my family. She had become very ill and disabled. And so that became my Tuesdays with Maury story. I started my business, and then I would take that 4-hour round trip journey every week to go and see how I can serve. It ended up being a life changer for me, because it taught me about love and compassion and service in a way that I never knew. So now I took those skills and infused those into my life and my business as well.
That is absolutely what this project is all about, is finding those influences and who helped shape us become who we are today.
Yeah.
And that's tremendous, because people look at influencers now when they're looking at social media. I mean, this is where people are getting influenced to now, right? The hands-on, to me, is where it's all about, right? You with your family or your friends or your neighbors, and the people that truly care, and not just try to make money off of you, but hey, I want to help you because I want to help you, because all the knowledge I have is useless if I don't share it. And it sounds like she did that for you, and that's beautiful.
She did that for me, and then in turn, after she died, it was like it left a hole. And as I started thinking about all those lessons that she and I learned, because I did that journey for 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was a commitment. So I knew that I, could truly follow through on a commitment.
Right.
And I've been married for 33 years, so we'll go with that.
Super. Yeah, you're committed. There's no question about that.
We just celebrated 22 years. Yeah. So I'm longevity.
Awesome. I love it.
But the two books that I wrote the first one was called On Heaven's Couch. A Journey with a Masterful Mentor. And it was because everything that I learned from her could not have been just for me. So I wanted to share that to whoever that could impact. And then I did the same thing, but with my business journey for Fabulous F Words of business ownership. So it's, it's taking all that knowledge and realizing that sometimes that information is just not about me. It's about what I learned and how I can share that information to better influence others, to help them save time in their lives, which obviously I didn't do.
Let me tell you what to do so you don't have to make the same mistakes. I tell that to my kids all the time.
Yep, there you go.
Right. So when you wrote your books, were you already publishing, or was that part of a little springboard into starting your own publishing company?
Oh, no. These books are fairly recent. So this was
wonderful. Okay.
One of them was a challenge. I had this great opportunity, a speaking event where I was being celebrated. And of course, a friend and client stood up and said, "So what's next for Fabi Preslar and Spark Publications?" And I was like, I shared a couple of things and I said, "When are you writing your book?" And I had the audacity to say what some of my clients did. "Oh, I'm not a writer." And it was just like, then it was like challenge was on. So I used all of my firm's resources, everything from a strategy to the pre-manuscript writing services to the editing, the cover design, interior design for marketability, and then the distribution and promotion planning. So I've went and used my firm's services as a client for both of my books.
And how does that change your perspective when you're working with a client? Now that you've actually been the client and now you have a different view of it.
Well, it's compassion, first of all, because writing a book and infusing yourself and your lessons into like the business knowledge that you have is not for the faint of heart. And it takes a lot of personal awareness as well as self-discovery, which I am now on a mission where every influencer and leader truly needs to write their memoir. It doesn't have to be published, but you really need to go through and figure out what your life timeline has actually taught you and to see how step 1 actually got you ready for step 2 and then 3. And then even if this part was horrible, it ended up being like what made you so strong and being able to be so resilient for the next part. And so, I'm thinking that that's going to be kind of a soft mission at this point, but really, to be the best influencer and leader that you can be, you really need to know who you are, where you came from, in the sense of like where your thoughts led you and how all those actions got you ready for things. So that's how I really work with our clients. And you interviewed Nisha Pai, and she was one of the most recent ones that I really pulled out those transformations from. And it's a beautiful process. I mean, you learn, you grow, you do better, you then share it with your audience. It's kind of a beautiful process. I'm excited about it.
Yeah, clearly, which is what makes you so successful. And you've been so successful for so many years because of that passion and that engagement, I think really has to help someone that walks into your doors and wants to write a book. And if someone wants to do that, I mean, what are the first steps and how would they get a hold of you in order to do that? Because everyone's got a story. Everyone has a story. And that's what I love about this.
Everyone does have a story, but not everybody needs to publish that story. And you can publish it, but there's different levels of doing that. So if you want to just get it out and have it for your own personal thing, there's some very simple things you can do for that. The way that we work with our clients, and if you're interested in getting more information, just info@sparkpublications.com, and it comes straight to my editorial team. And, I'll personally send you an invitation to watch a free video that kind of outlines how we work, shows you some great samples of some beautiful books. And then you just kind of make a decision. Do you want to have a strategy session so I can help you one-on-one? I do all the strategy sessions to really dig into, where you are in the process. I mean, we have a lot of business owners that come and say, "I got 5 book ideas. I don't know which one to do." Or, "I know I need to do something. I've been a speaker for years. I don't know what to write about." And that's where that strategy session, I really kind of pull that information out, and then we make sure that it works with their future vision, and then set them up with ways to get that written. So the pre-manuscript work that we do is pretty awesome. And if you need a writing coach, I've got some of those. So it's just, we guide you and do the entire process.
Which is incredible, because when I had the opportunity, because I told you, this started out as a book project, as a portrait project with descriptions on how the people affected my life. Some of my best friends are going to be in this book when I finally get it done. But listening to all that there was so much more to it than I anticipated.
Oh my gosh.
Couldn't believe it. I mean, I was like, whoa, my scope of it was this big, and it's this big. I had no idea how massive it was.
Equate it to someone saying, well, just take my picture. It's not just about snapping the photo. You had to set it up, you had to light it, then you got all the post work. Yeah, I mean, I think we have about 127 steps.
Yeah, absolutely, right? The editing and the adjusting and the color correcting and then printing. And I will admit, when I print a photo, it is the coolest thing. It's great on the computer, but when you print it, it's so different. And I have to imagine when you finally get a book done, the actual print itself is fabulous.
We birthed these books.
Right. There you go. Excellent. Wonderful. Well, Fabi, thank you so much for your time today. You have been wonderful. And if anyone is really interested in getting a book published, I highly recommend you check out Spark Publications. And if you like what you're seeing, please make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, make sure you subscribe there as well. Again, Fabi, thank you so much for everything. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I look forward to seeing you sometime soon.
Thank you, Chris.